welcome everyone to the Monday, October 12th Maplewood City Council meeting. Tonight, I wanted to start off this first meeting in October with some opportunities for residents in our community. And I wanted to highlight two different things that are going on in the month of October. The very first thing I want to talk about is we have a winter coat drive that is happening in the month of October. The Maplewood Organization on Race and Equity, our MORE team, who is comprised of Joe Sheeran, Audra Robbins, Gina Kutchenmeister, Lieutenant Carrie Helly, EMS Chief Mike Mondor, and Emily Burt McGregor, have secured 4 drop-off locations for new and gently used winter coats. Now, coats of all sizes are needed, either new or gently used coats. You can drop them off during the month of October at City Hall, at the Maplewood Community Center /YMCA, at the South Fire Station, and at the Central Fire Station. All sizes are welcome. Once all of the coats are collected, then they are going to be distributed through ISD 622, ISD 623, those are our 2 school districts, the YMCA, and the Tubman Center. Depending on how many coats we get, it will kind of drive who is going to be distributing them. I think People Inc. is going to be another location where the coats will be distributed. City staff are also eager to participate. This is a great outreach event in our community. And so if you have either a new coat or a gently used coat, please drop it off during the month of October. There's someone in need who could certainly put that coat to use in the winter time. Also, if you or someone that you know is experiencing food insecurity during this really challenging time of COVID, Maplewood has been selected to receive a truckload of boxed produce and dairy items and also meats on October 15th, 22nd, and 29th. Those are the 3 remaining Thursdays in October. And as a city, we will receive anywhere from 1,000 to 1,400 boxes of food that we are going to be distributing. The semi-trucks will arrive on those Thursdays at 9 a.m. They'll be unloaded to the parking lot, and then the food will be distributed in the Maplewood Community Center /YMC parking lot from 10 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. This is a great opportunity, once again, for our community and those that you know, either yourself or someone that you know who is experiencing food insecurity. I want to thank the YMCA staff who are participating with us in this, our police department, our fire and EMS department. Also, I want to say thanks to Steve Love, Brian Nagel, and our public works team. They're going to be coordinating the forklift and pallet jack to help unload the semi-trailer. This food is distributed through the United States VA. It is a program, Farmers to Families Food Box program, and it's designed to help farmers, ranchers, and consumers in response to the impact of the pandemic. So this is a great opportunity, people. You can find more information about the Farmers to Families Food Box program on the city's Facebook pages, on the public safety page, and I'm told that it will be added to our website tomorrow so that you can find out more information about that. So we've got some really great opportunities to really reach out and to help one another during this time. So I'm very happy to announce those 2 great opportunities. So with that, we are going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, council members and staff and those who are listening. Tonight, we're going to use our round robin again so that we can make sure that we have an opportunity for everyone to speak. The order that we'll be using tonight will be Councilmember Juniman, Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Knutson, and then Councilmember Neblett. And once again, at the end of the council meeting, we'll go through that same order for any closing remarks that council would like to share. So City Clerk Sint, would you please take our roll call for us?
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knutson.
Here.
Councilmember Neblett.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
I'm here as well. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second? Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson. The motion to approve the agenda. Further discussion, I would like to remove item F3 from our agenda. We were going to be interviewing a potential commissioner tonight for the Heritage Preservation Commission, and that individual has withdrawn their application, and so we no longer need to have commissioner interviews. Any other discussion? Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, I have one item, the follow-up to the Shredded event of Saturday.
Okay. Councilmember Smith. Any items that you? Okay. Councilmember Knutson.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
No, thank you.
And I would like to add under council presentations, a meeting that I attended, a Zoom meeting with the Ramsey County League of Local Government. It was a panel discussion with Ramsey County concerning mental health in our communities. So with that, let us take a vote on approving the agenda. And I take, Councilmember Juniman, was your motion, did that include the removal of F3, an amendment?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on to the vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. We have first the September 28th City Council workshop minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett, the September 28th, 2020 City Council workshop minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's move to the vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to the September 28th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Neblett, seconded by Juniman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's move to the vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to appointments and presentations. City Manager Coleman is not attending tonight, so we have Assistant City Manager Mike Sable. Mr. Sable, do you want to take this council calendar update?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Again, this is Mike Sable, Assistant City Manager. The upcoming agenda items for the City Council include an October 28th council meeting, a November 9th council meeting, and I want to make note that that November 9 meeting will be the first potential hybrid meeting of the council since the COVID pandemic began. And then there will be, assuming again that the agenda item passes later this evening, but a special council meeting on on November 12th at 4:30 p.m. to canvass the results of the 2020 general election. And that's all I have for council calendar updates. And Mayor, if you're speaking, you went back on mute. So
Thank you very much. Back, I was on mute, okay. Moving on, is there any council comments or any discussion items council would like to add? Councilmember Juniman,
Well, thanks.
Councilmember Smith,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Knutson,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
No, thank you.
Okay, then moving on to council presentations. Councilmember Juniman, you wanted to do a follow-up to the shred event on Saturday?
Yes, I guess people were still enthused to be unloading something, even though we couldn't have cleanup. Because we took in 12,000 pounds of documents on Saturday. So it was basically a truck and a half. And they didn't count cars, but it was a pretty steady stream from what I can understand. And they were lined up at 8 o'clock. So people were still wanting to get something cleaned out. And I'm supposed to remind everyone that we'll be doing it again in the spring. Hopefully it will be part of spring cleanup. But if we have to do it this way again, we will have some kind of a pickup by Republic for your bulk items, and then we will do another shred event. And it's also to remind people that you have basically 2 more weeks to arrange for a bulk item pickup at a discount price. Thank you. Just call Republic Services.
Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to comment that I attended the Ramsey County League of Local Government Zoom meeting, the monthly meeting last week, and the topic was mental health in our communities. And there was a really excellent turnout on the Zoom meeting of representatives from the cities in Ramsey County and the Ramsey County Health and Human Services Department. And there were a number of individuals who spoke. There was representatives that work with school-age kids and mental health, and then adult mental health. And I have to say that Ramsey County has made some great strides in the delivery of mental health services, despite the fact that we're in a pandemic. And, sometimes I've heard people say during this time that, we can't miss the opportunities that are happening during this pandemic as well. And I would summarize the meeting as Ramsey County is really seizing this opportunity and moving away from what they themselves characterized as kind of the siloed delivery of mental health services, and are really working to get out there in the community. And I think that there are some really excellent things that are happening by virtue of creativity and by teams working together, recognizing that the pandemic has created some new issues, and Ramsey County is being very, very responsive in how they're addressing mental health concerns. And so one of the things too that we discussed was the fact that it's been proposed that the old Bethesda site that right now is operating as a COVID hospital is going to be turned over by lease if the county board adopts it this week to provide shelter and mental health services for homeless individuals in the county, which I think is a really great resource and definitely needed. So I think Ramsey County is stepping up and finding new ways, and it was a very encouraging Zoom meeting. So just wanted to report back on that. We have no commissioner interviews tonight. We do have a resolution for commissioner appointments. Mr. Sable, were you going to be doing this one, or is Lois Knutson on the line?
Mayor and council members, I can certainly take this one. As you know, there are recommended actions outlined after the interviews that were conducted at the last council meeting. And based on the recommendations, they've been outlined. And so what I think you can choose to do is to make a recommended action to approve the attached resolution to appoint the candidates. What I would suggest, because one of the members of the Heritage Preservation Commission chose not, was not able to participate and had to withdraw, I think what you could do then is amend that one section to eliminate that candidate, and then go ahead and just make the approvals as they're outlined in the resolution. I know many folks know Lou Aurelius. I know many staff members here know her, and it's too bad that she's not able to participate because she has served before and is a great former staff member and a great resident and a great addition. But we understand her. She needs to take care of her own health, and when she's healthy, she'll be back. And I would imagine that we will fill that spot sometime in the future. But that would be the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sable. Any discussion, council members? Councilmember Juniman?
Yes, Mayor, under the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission, I'm not sure that the second one, that would be Kayla, that says term expires September 30th, 2021. I don't think so.
Mr. Sable, can you comment on that?
Would be appointing her after her term was over. Sort of. I mean, she just
No, that we can't quite go back in time. Yes.
Is this just a 1-year thing?
To be honest, so I'm going to have to check last council agenda packet item, but if you go do some discussion, I'll be able to find that right away and get back to you.
Okay.
I didn't understand that term ended that. Thank you.
It might just be that it's a fill-in for someone's term. I'm not certain about that, but Mr. Sable will find that out.
All right.
Okay, good question. Councilmember Smith.
No other comments.
Okay, Councilmember Knudsen.
No, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Neblett.
No questions.
Okay, then Mr. Sable, we're back at you.
Thank you, Mayor. I needed a little bit more time from that. So if it's possible, can you delay this item until I can do some research and we'll come back to it while I search the packet from last week.
Okay. Mr. Beatty, I know you're on the line. Do you want to direct us on how we might do that?
Madam Mayor, Council, I think all you simply need to do is a motion to postpone further consideration of this item until, let's say, after the consent agenda or whenever Mr. Sable indicates that he has conducted the necessary research.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty, for that procedural analysis. Is there a motion? Thank you. Move to postpone. I would suggest that we postpone until after the consent agenda.
Correct.
Are you amenable to that
I
amendment?
certainly am. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman moved to postpone it until after the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Neblett. The motion to postpone the resolution for commissioner appointments until after the consent agenda tonight. Any further discussion? Hearing none. How do you vote? Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Let us take a look at the consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Mayor, before we do that, can we pull out number 5 for discussion?
Sure, we can highlight that. Okay.
And could we highlight the grant, please?
I'm trying to look.
Number 4.
Number 4. Okay.
Public
yes, I
safety
can see
grant.
that.
Sorry, Mary.
Got it. Okay. So in terms of let's start with the number 4, the agreement with the City of St. Paul and acceptance of the Department of Public Safety grant money. Chief Nadeau, I'm going to take it that is yours.
Yes, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is a fairly standard grant. It is a grant that the City of Maplewood Police Department has access to for grant-funded overtime. It's actually federal dollars that come from the Federal Highway NHTSA, and they're then passed on to the state, who then pass it down to the county level. We do partner with St. Paul, which administers the grant on behalf of Ramsey County for Ramsey County entities, and it reimburses the wage and fringe benefits associated with overtime for the different initiatives that we participate in. Typically, it is grant-funded DUI enforcement, but there are other waves that come through for speeding, that come through for seatbelt enforcement, and the like. So this just enables us to be able to partner with St. Paul and receive those reimbursements.
Thank you very much for that, Chief.
That's
And Councilmember Juniman, did you have a comment?
I said that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. Mr. Beatty, I'm assuming that you are G5 in terms of the settlement agreement?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I am.
Okay, do you want to discuss that, please?
Yes, Mayor and Council. As some of you probably know, the city entered into an agreement several years ago with an individual doing business under the name Dynamic Surface Systems LLC for a sign that was to be placed outside of the community center. The city prepaid that amount and the sign was never delivered. And so after a number of attempts by staff to have the money returned, which the individual had promised at one point, we finally concluded that that was not going to occur. And so the city initiated litigation. This is a settlement agreement whereby the party agrees to repay the city in full overtime at the rate of $500 per month.
So,
Did you have any
Mayor,
questions?
I have a question.
Okay,
So it seems like a very simple question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Why are they only paying us back $500 a month when they required us to pay full amount up front?
Mr. Beatty.
Well, good question. I don't know all the details of why the city paid up front. My understanding was that the sign was being fabricated in China, and there was a request by the sign company that the city pay the money up front in order to accomplish the fabrication of the sign. That happened, but no sign. And so now the question is, how do we get our money out of it? Frankly, that's less money per month. That's a slower payment back than I would have preferred. We negotiated that figure, less than I wanted, but it's a compromise figure. And I think, my view, and I think staff's view, is that if we can recover some money, even over time, better than what we have right now.
Okay. Just
Does that
wondering.
answer your question?
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
It answers my question, but I got to admit, for somebody you had to go to court to fight to get them to even up $500 a month, I'm not real confident that they're going to deliver on their monthly payments. But that's just me. So it's obviously it is done, but yeah.
And Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mr. Beatty, what happens if they do not pay back the city at the rate of $500 per month?
yes, and of course, the issue that Council Member Neblett is raising is certainly a possibility. If that occurs, then they've defaulted under this agreement, and we would sue on the contract. And the advantage there is that the facts are pretty straightforward. They had filed an answer of a sort which raised some factual defenses. Whether they would be valid or not, I don't know. But this would simplify any further enforcement action because we simply have a contract. If they don't pay, they've defaulted under the contract. And so it simplifies any kind of future litigation, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Beatty.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
thank you. Just in response to Councilmember Neblet's concerns, I actually know this person, and I do know that this person has had the intent to make it right with the city from the get-go, but has not had the ability. This was around the time that the new tariffs went into place, and so his relationships with his vendors in China fell apart, and they were not able to fix that, and so his business actually went under fully. So, this is something he's paying personally to make right with the city. So, I think he's going to do everything he can to live up to this side of it and make things right. I don't think he's trying to get away with anything here.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I don't believe that we had a motion yet on this. We highlighted those two items.
I move the consent agenda items G1 through 7.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, the consent agenda items G1 through 7, seconded by Knutson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblet.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Councilmembers, we now are returning to F, the resolution for commissioner appointments, F4. Mr. Sable, have you had enough time to locate that information?
Madam Mayor, thank you, members of the council. The dates in the resolution are correct. Kayla Dosser is expected to fill the term of Joe Gould, who had to leave early. And so Kayla would be eligible to reapply at the beginning next year as well. So this is to complete the term of a previous commissioner who had to step down from the role. As you know, the assignments or the terms are on a staggered basis. So there's both a mix of seasoned, experienced members on the commissions and also a fresh new perspective. And that's the intent behind the rotating basis. So the dates in the resolution are correct. It's a replacement of a member who had to step down.
Thank you, Mr. Sable.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Sable. Is there a motion? And keep in mind, council members, that we have to remove Lucille Aurelius from the resolution. Is there a motion?
I move the resolution appointing the following individuals to the various commissions. Stephen Today, Environmental Natural Resources Commission, Stephen Today to 2023, Kayla Dosser to 2021, Heritage Preservation Commission, Jason DeMoe to 2022, Housing and Economic Development Commission, Sarah Burdash, 2023, Bao Vang, 2023, and to Planning Commission, Cheryl Sukowski, to December 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblet. The motion to approve the attached resolution as amended to appoint the candidates to the commissions as indicated. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Juniman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblet.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Welcome to all of our new commissioners. Moving on, we have a public hearing tonight concerning several road projects. Mr. Love, this is your presentation tonight. Would you please give us the background and context for this year's process?
Certainly, Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. As you noted, we have 3 assessment hearings tonight regarding the projects that have been under construction this year. As you know, previous projects or previous years, the assessment hearings were generally held in the spring prior to the award of contract. This year, we obviously had COVID-19 affect a lot of things. And one of the things that we were asked is, were there anything that the city can do with assessments to kind of maybe take a little bit of the pressure off of residents and property owners that own property that are being assessed as part of the projects? The state statutes control how the assessment process can go. They're very rigid, but what we were able to do was delay the assessment hearings from the spring till the fall, and thereby saving interest accumulating during that time by delaying them until now. So we are doing them at a different time here tonight. I'll just walk through really quickly staff's recommendation on the process here tonight. So John Jarosh, our assistant city engineer, will be giving a presentation in a moment for the first project. We recommend at that point, after the presentation, that the council holds the public hearing and takes input from residents. Following the public hearing, we recommend turning it back to staff to discuss any objections received. If the objections are fairly straightforward, staff will be providing recommendations to you tonight for your consideration. And if there is something that needs even a little bit of a more detailed look into, staff will recommend bringing that back to council at the next council meeting. After that, staff would be available for questions, and council can consider the approval of the roll. Just a side note, and John will talk about this as well, that objections have to be received in writing prior to the end of the public hearing. This information was provided to the residents. John's going to provide it again during his presentation, and then we will keep that contact information up during the public hearing in case we have anybody at the last minute wanting to submit a written objection to the assessment. So with that, Mayor and Council, I recommend turning over to John Jarosh for his presentation. And if there's ever any questions on what the next step should be, feel free to ask, and we certainly can help provide you that.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Mr. Jarosh, would you provide the project summary for our first public hearing tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council, and thank you, Steve. Can everybody see my screen I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so the first assessment hearing we're going to perform tonight is for the Dennis McClelland Area Street Improvements, City Project 19-10. And you might remember the streets included on this project are shown on the right-hand side of the screen. This was a full street reconstruction project, and the neighborhood was generally bounded by Upper Afton Road on the south, Century Avenue on the east, and Battle Creek on the north. What is a special assessment? Essentially, it is one of the funding sources the city utilizes to finance the public improvement projects. And the city asks that property that are abutting the improvements pay an assessment for the direct benefit to their property. Each year, the city council sets a maximum assessment rate for the various type of improvement projects. And then during the project design phase, the city hires an independent appraiser to determine what that direct benefit the properties in the project area are receiving from the improvements. And then per Minnesota state statutes, the city cannot assess those properties for more than that direct benefit to the properties. And that independent appraisal was performed on this project, and that is reflected in the current, the final assessment roll. So like Steve noted, the assessment hearing was delayed this year. Typically, we hold that assessment hearing in the spring of the year at the same time as the award of contract. However, this year we delayed that until now due to the COVID-19 situation. And that allowed for reduction in the amount of accumulated interest that would typically accumulate over the summer months before the city certifies those assessments to the county in November. So prior to tonight's assessment hearing, the residents in the project area were mailed an official notice of their assessment. And that notice included the amount of their assessment, what options were available for paying that assessment, the deferral options that were available, as well as their right to object to that assessment. And as of tonight, no objections have been received on this project, and no deferral requests have been received as well. In total, there are 205 accessible residential parcels within this project area, and the full reconstruction rate applied to the majority of that project area was $6,600 per residential unit. We also had a small portion of this project. It was Sterling Street, the cul-de-sac section just off of Upper Afton. That section already had concrete curb and gutter, and all we did was replace the pavement there. So those properties were assessed at the pavement rehabilitation rate of $3,450 per unit. There are several options available for paying assessments. Residents can make a full or partial payment to the city, and that would be interest-free up until the date that we certify those assessments to Ramsey County on November 15th. Residents can also just allow that full amount of their assessment to be certified to Ramsey County, and those certified amounts would be paid over a 15-year period with the regular Ramsey County property taxes, and they do include interest over that time frame, and the interest rate this year is 3.5%. There's a few options available for deferring assessments as well. A deferral does not make an assessment go away. It essentially delays when that assessment has to be paid. These deferral options are for a 15-year period, but they do include interest over that 15-year period, and they do come due with interest at the end of that period. So deferrals are available where the assessment would create a financial hardship, and one of these following conditions also applies. If that resident is 65 years of age or older, if they're retired due to disability, or if they're a member of the National Guard or other armed forces called into active duty, they can request that deferral. We also have an undeveloped property deferral option. If a resident has a vacant lot, something with no improvements that have been made to it, they can request the undeveloped property deferral. That would also be for a 15-year period with interest. However, if no improvements are made on that property within that 15-year period, that assessment would be terminated at the end of that deferment period. The overall project cost for this project was just over $8.1 million, with approximately 16% being covered by these special assessments in the amount of just over $1.3 million. Overall, this project is nearing completion. We have pavement on the entire project area. The contractor is wrapping up the boulevard restorations with sod and tree plantings this week. And we are anticipating that the final layer of pavement will be going on within the next couple of weeks. So we're really happy about that. The project went really well, and we're wrapping up right on schedule. The final punch list items and project cleanup will be happening in early November. So staff is recommending that the City Council hold the assessment hearing tonight and take the public input on the proposed assessments. And then following taking that input, City Council will consider staff recommendations for any written objections that are received prior to the close of that assessment hearing. Like I mentioned before, we haven't received any to date. But if residents have an objection they'd like to put in, it needs to come in writing by the close of the assessment hearing. And those assessment objections should be mailed to me. My email address is shown on the screen, but for those people calling in, that email address is john.jarosh@maplewoodmn.gov. That's JON.JAROSCH@maplewoodmn.gov. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor, for the public hearing. And then just a reminder, after that public hearing, staff will be available to make recommendations on that final assessment roll and any objections that come in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jarosh. And thank you for including kind of a timeline at the end of your presentation. I know I have been out in that neighborhood in the last 2 weeks, and it sure looked like there was a lot of work that needed to be done still. before the snow flies. And I take it that it is going to, it's from what you've described, it sounds like it's going to be done by approximately November 1st. Would that be accurate?
Yes, Mayor, that is correct. We are looking at, like I said, putting that final layer of pavement on. I think it's towards the end of next week, actually. And then all that'll be left is final project cleanup type items, which will take a few weeks to complete. So yeah, early November is an accurate estimate.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Let's see if there are any other council questions before I open up the public hearing. Councilmember Juniman?
None, but I can see why there aren't many objections, if any. If you've seen the conditions of those streets before we started. I think there's cheering going on, not objecting.
I think I hear it from up here. Okay. Councilmember Smith?
No other comments here.
Okay, Councilmember Knutson?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett?
None from me, thank you.
Okay, then with hearing no further questions of staff, then I am going to open up the assessment hearing to receive any objections for the Dennis McClelland area street improvements, City Project 19-10. The public hearing is open. Mr. Sharon, do we have anyone on the line who wants to speak during the public hearing?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there are several people in the queue. Because it's just phone numbers, I'm not sure who is attending for which specific property tax assessment hearing. I'm going to run through the last 4 digits of the phone number. If that is you and you want to speak, I'll give you a cue to speak. So
Okay.
with that.
Just to make it clear, this is on the Dennis McClelland area street improvements. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sharon.
Madam Mayor, this is Mike Sable speaking. Joe, or if you're trying to speak, you're on mute.
Okay, I am off of mute now. Would the person with the last 4 digits of 8389 like to make a statement about the Dennis McClelland assessment?
No comment from 8389.
Would the
Thank
person with the last 4 digits 4905 like to make a comment? You can hit *6 to unmute. Would the person with the last 4 digits 6731 like to make a comment? Would the person with the last 4 digits 2099 like to make a comment? Would the person with the last 4 digits 7180 like to make a comment? Would the person with the last 4 digits 0168 like to make a comment? Would the person with the last 4 digits 7510 like to make a comment? Would the person with the last 4 digits 2979 like to make a comment? Everyone's line is open, so if you're trying to talk and you're not getting a response, try *6. Would the person with the last 4 digits 3279 like to make a comment on this project? last four digits, 9301. Do you have a comment on this project? Last four digits, 3934. Do you have a comment on the Dennis McClellan project? Your mic is now open. Madam Mayor, I am through the list of phone numbers. Everyone's phone is open and they are permitted to talk as of right now. If no one wants to make a comment on the Dennis McClellan project, I will remute your line. Remember, you have to hit *6 to speak.
You know, Mr. Sharon, let's run through that just one more time. I know this is a little bit clunky and cumbersome to do this on a Zoom meeting, but I want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity if they want to make an objection to the assessment. We certainly want to hear it. So if you could, please, when your number is called off, please press *6 and at least let us know that you're not interested in making a comment concerning the Dennis McClellan street assessment. I just want to make sure that we give everyone a full opportunity. So Mr. Sharon, would you go through that again? We heard from 8389 that person did not want to make a comment, but if you want to pick that up for the other.
Mayor, point of order.
Yes, Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my understanding from talking to City Clerk Sin today too, that if someone was to email the city clerk before the end of the public hearing with an objection, that would also count as an objection.
Okay, good. That's a nice fallback. I just want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity. And if
I agree. I just want to make sure that's clear in case.
I appreciate that. That's great.
Unmute.
That's great. You know, if you're not familiar with the technology, you still have the opportunity to send an email to City Clerk Andrea Sint to register your objection. Okay.
Yes,
so
hi. Yes, I'm sorry. This is Julie Carlson, and I have another meeting at 8 o'clock here. I've already been talking with John Jarosh. This doesn't deal with McClellan. This deals with Shallard, but it's a universal question for either projects there. I'm wondering, just a simple question, was Waste Management and Republic Services, do they have any partial payment that's due with these assessments? Thank you.
You'll have to stay on the line because we'll have staff answer questions after we hear from the public, okay? So I wrote down your question, and Mr. Jarosh and Mr. Love, I'm sure, heard that question as well, so we'll get back to that. And what was the last number of your phone?
6835. Thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Sharon, do you want to run through those that are on the call as well one more time?
Yes. As I'm seeing it right now, no one has unmuted their phone. Everyone has been given the opportunity to unmute their phone, and no one has, except for the folks that we've connected with earlier.
Okay, I would still like to do it one more time. I mean, we've done this before. I know it's clunky, but you know, I want to make sure that we give people an opportunity to present at the public hearing.
Okay. With the person with the last four digits, 4905, would you like to make a comment? If you're not making a comment on Dennis McClellan, please confirm that you're not. And you have to hit *6 to unmute your phone. Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
With the person 6731, can you unmute your phone?
This is Carol Grant, and I've unmuted my phone, and I'm not here to comment on the I'm here to comment on the Arcade Street issue. Okay, thank you.
2099. If you don't want to comment, just let us know.
$2099. I think it sounds like I hear a radio.
There will be one more that I'll have to go out and
That's
probably.
6731 is still unmuted.
Mr. Sharon, who is unmuted at this point?
I have everyone currently able to talk, but no one is unmuted. So everyone is eligible to talk, but no one is actually unmuted from the callers whose phone numbers are unknown.
Because they need to unmute themselves. Is that
They would
correct?
have to unmute, yes.
Okay. So I think we're at 2099.
Yes. Next number is 7180. 7180. I've asked them to unmute their line.
Hi, this is Polly Nemec. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And what's your last four digits?
7180.
Okay.
I'm here with Marv Schmitz, and we are are objecting to the Arcade Street and County Road B.
Okay. Thank you. The next one then is 0168.
The person with the last four digits, 0168. If you don't want to make a comment on Dennis McClellan, please just let us know so we don't pass you by.
Let's move on to the next one, please.
3279. The person with the last three digits, 3279.
Pass on this.
Okay, thank you. The person with the last four digits, 6731.
I think that was Carol Grant. She already spoke.
All right. The person with the last four digits of 3934.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Hi, this is Roxanne Dimitrick, and I live at 22 Farrell Street. And I did send in an objection form, but I don't know if you've got it in the mail yet. I sent it in last Wednesday or Thursday.
And what, okay.
Well, my objection was, but I wanted a better explanation of the cost of the assessment, why it's so much. 6,600 seems like an awfully high amount. And all we got is a bill for that amount, and it didn't really explain why we were charged that much.
Okay, what we'll do when the hearing is closed, then staff will be able to respond. Are there any other questions or anything that you have as part of your objections?
No, I just kind of wanted, more of an explanation of why the city came up with that amount to assess everyone. I assume that we're all getting assessed at 6,600, and I just like an explanation why it was so high.
Okay. We will have Mr. Love and Mr. Jerish at the end of the public hearing they will be able to answer those questions, okay? Is there any other question that you have, Roxanne?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Mayor, I believe we've gone through the list again.
Okay, then at this point, I will call for anyone else who would like to provide any objection to the Dennis McClelland area assessment hearing. Please let us know. Mr. Sharon, is there someone else on the line there?
No.
Okay.
I honestly just closed everyone's microphone.
Okay. Then at this point, just a reminder that if you still would like to make an objection, you can send an email to City Clerk Stent. Hearing no further objections, I am going to close the public hearing. And this is the opportunity now. We have two questions. One concerning waste management in Republic from the phone line ending in 6835. Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish, do you want to respond to that question, please?
Yeah, I can. So for waste management, the city does not assess the trash hauling companies. We assess properties. We don't assess people. So we assess the properties that are benefiting from the project. And those are those properties that we identified in the assessment role that are directly abutting the project improvement. So no, we do not assess the trash hauling companies.
Okay. And there was also another question concerning the amount of the assessment. And that was raised by Roxanne with a number ending in 3934. She was asking about the $6,600 total assessment for some of the properties. Could one of you, either Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish, please explain that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So the assessments, like I touched on before, each year the city council sets a maximum rate for the type of improvement project, for the various types of improvement projects. So for a full street reconstruction project where we are doing, there's no concrete curb and gutter there existing, we're installing concrete curb and gutter. We're putting in a full new road section. We are replacing the entire water main system. We're upgrading the storm sewer system and making repairs to the sanitary system. So for a full reconstruction project like that in Maplewood in 2020, the city council set that maximum rate at $6,600. And then during the project design phase, the city reached out to an independent appraisal company and had them do an appraisal on the project. And they determined through that appraisal that that $6,600 amount was at or below what the properties are benefiting from the project improvements. And that's what we have to test ourselves against to meet state statutes of only assessing what those properties are benefiting.
Mayor, this is Steve Love. I would also just add, as a reminder, with residential properties, we assess on a unit basis. So for residential property owners, they are being assessed equally on a 1 unit basis.
As opposed to the frontage of their property. Is that what you're talking about?
That is correct. Rather than basing it off of frontage or overall size of the property, it's based on a unit basis. That way, for the residential properties, we're making sure that we're treating everybody that are on the project similarly. For example, if in a cul-de-sac, you might have a lot less frontage room than a corner lot. So a corner lot shouldn't have to pay 2 assessments compared to a cul-de-sac lot.
Okay.
Mayor, just point of information.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. And when we say benefit, what we're talking about is an increase to the property value based on the improvements of infrastructure. Can we confirm that's correct?
Mr. Love.
Mayor and council, I believe that's correct. I just would want to double check that with Ron Beatty.
Mr. Beatty, can you weigh in on that, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, that's exactly right. By law, assessments cannot exceed the benefit conferred upon the property, and that means the increase in market value of the property as a direct result of the improvement.
Thank you. You know, one other point, and this is really in response to the question raised by Roxanne about the amount of the assessment. There were actually two different rates for this particular project. And I believe she said that hers was $6,600. Mr. Jerish or Mr. Love, would you please explain the difference between the two different rates? I mean, one being full reconstruction and the other one is pavement rehabilitation. But can you give us a little bit more information about that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So for the pavement rehabilitation rate, like I said in my presentation, that only applied to Sterling Street, the cul-de-sac portion just north of Upper Afton Road. And that street already had, existing before the project, concrete curb and gutter. They had a storm sewer system. The water main system was adequate there, as well as the sanitary sewer system. So all we did on that street was focus on replacing the failed pavement versus the remainder of the neighborhood, which did not have concrete curb and gutter. It did not have a modern road section. It did not have an adequate storm sewer system. The water main system was prone to failure, and there was a number of areas of the sanitary sewer main that needed to be replaced. So there was a full reconstruction project that happened in the remainder of the project area versus just replacing the failed pavement on the area that received the pavement rehabilitation rate.
Okay, thank you for that. Other than those questions, were there any other objections that concerning the assessment rolls? Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish, can you respond to that?
Mayor, I did not receive any additional objections while we were holding the hearing.
Okay. City Clerk Stent, can you tell me of whether or not you received any other objections to the assessment?
I did not receive any for 1910.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this point then, Council, it's our opportunity to deliberate, ask any questions, and then to decide. Councilmember Juniman.
I don't actually have, thank you, Mayor. I don't actually have a question, but I have a comment for the people who wonder why they have to pay an assessment. And to put it into perspective, we should actually have Mr. Jerish or Mr. Love give an equivalent of how much their assessment helps pay off the street versus the entire cost. Because I think people have a not realistic view of the fact that they think their assessment is so big, they must be paying for the whole road, and that's not true. And so that part of every project is basically is put on general obligation as well, so that everyone is contributing in some way, if you pay taxes in the city, to streets being upgraded. But when it's in your neighborhood, then you are assessed because there's a direct benefit. And I think people sometimes don't realize that if you haven't had curb and gutter, then you probably haven't had appropriate stormwater management, and you may have failing water mains and so on. And stormwater management may not seem important to people, but if we don't have appropriate stormwater management, Metropolitan Council by law can shut us down. If our roads and our stormwater aren't handled correctly, we may have to stop at some point issuing any kind of building permits. So it isn't just something we dream up. This is all done from rules that we have to follow. And it also has something to do with people really want to be able to get in and out of their neighborhoods decently. So I think you have to kind of put it in perspective. And I do believe that I've never heard of a case where people have had to pay more than once if you live in your house for 35 years. If you pay a assessment one time, it is my understanding that you will never be assessed again. So just to help put it in perspective. And perhaps
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman.
maybe Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish could just address the piece about an individual's assessment compared to the other pieces that are paying into the street. Thank you.
Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish, could you respond to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I pulled back up on the screen the project funding plan for this project. I briefly mentioned this during the presentation, but the overall project funding was just over $8.1 million. And in total, the special assessments were 1.3 million of that. So a significant amount by any means, but that dollar amount represents 16% of the overall project cost. So yes, we are asking the residents in the project area to, take on some of this financial burden and invest directly into their own neighborhood. But when you look at this overall project funding plan, the remainder of the city as a whole is financing the remaining 84% of that project cost. So yes, there is a direct financial burden we're asking those residents to pay, but the city as a whole is contributing a large portion to this project cost as well.
Thank you, Mr. Jerish.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Smith,
No further comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
No comments, thank you.
Okay. Then at this point, council members, there is a motion before us. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution adopting the assessment roll for the Dennis McClelland Area Street Improvement City Project 19-10.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett. The motion to approve the resolution adopting the assessment roll for the Dennis McClelland Area Street Improvements City Project 19-10. Any further discussion concerning Dennis McClelland improvements? Hearing none, then let's move to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next assessment is the Schaller Area Pavement Rehabilitation Project, City Project 19-11. Mr. Love, do you want to set this up for us, please?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So this is our pavement rehabilitation project, as you mentioned. Similar to what I had said in the previous introduction, again, these assessment hearings were typically done in the springtime when we awarded the contract, but we did delay them as a way of trying to address some relief to residents that might be impacted by COVID. John will touch on that during his presentation. Staff recommends following a similar process as the previous one, where we'll give a presentation, recommend holding the public hearing. Residents who are objecting, again, would need to do so in writing by the end of that public hearing. After that, staff would be available to comment on any objections received or answer any questions the council may have. With that, I recommend having John proceed with this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Mr. Jerish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Steve. The second assessment hearing tonight is for the Schaller Area Pavement Rehabilitation Project, City Project 19-11. And the streets included in this project are shown on the right-hand side of the screen. This neighborhood was generally bounded by Highwood Avenue on the south, McKnight Road on the west, and Linwood Avenue on the north. Again, the special assessments are just one of those funding sources utilized to finance the improvement projects. The property directly abutting the improvements is asked to pay an assessment for the direct benefit to their property. Like I said before, the maximum rates are set by the city council each year, depending on the type of the project. And then during the project design, that independent appraiser is hired to determine what the direct benefit is that is received by the properties in the area. And per Minnesota state statutes, the city cannot assess the properties for more than the direct benefit to their property. for this project as well. That independent appraisal did confirm the rates that are shown in that final assessment roll. Like we talked about on the other one, the assessment hearing was delayed until October of this year due to COVID-19, and that was done to reduce that financial burden, to reduce the amount of interest that accumulated over the summer months before we certified to Ramsey County in November of the year. Prior to this assessment hearing, the residents were also mailed an official statement of assessment, and that covered the amount of their assessment, what options they had to pay it, their options for deferring it, as well as their right to object to the assessment. And as of now, no objections have been received on this project. We did receive one request for an undeveloped property deferral. There are 222 accessible residential parcels within this project area. And on this project, all of those properties were assessed at the pavement rehabilitation rate of $3,450 per unit. There are a number of payment options available. There's the full or partial payment that can be made to the city interest-free, and those payments will be accepted up till November 15th of the year, with any remaining amounts being certified to be paid with the Ramsey County taxes. And those certified amounts will be paid over a 15-year period, but they would include interest at a rate of 3.5%. There are also a handful of deferral options available. Again, those are for a 15-year period, and they do include interest, and they do come due with that interest at the end of that period. So it does not make the assessment go away. It just delays when that payment needs to be made. So those deferrals are available for where the assessment would create a financial hardship, and one of the following conditions is also met. That resident is 65 years of age or older, they're retired due to permanent disability, or they're a member of the armed forces called into active duty. All those options or those residents would be able to apply for a financial hardship deferral. We also have the undeveloped property deferral, which is also for a 15-year period with interest. However, if no improvements are made to those undeveloped properties within that 15-year period, that assessment would be terminated at the end of that period. In total, this project costs roughly $1.6 million, with roughly 45% of this project cost being covered by the special assessments at a rate of $765,900. This project has been completed. The contractor is working on some final punch list items and project cleanup items, but this project has been wrapped up. Staff will be performing a spring walkthrough, as we do with all of our projects, to look for any warranty repairs that would need to be made. But this project is complete. With that, staff is recommending that the City Council hold the assessment hearing and take in public input on the proposed assessments. And afterwards, City Council should consider any staff recommendations for any written objections that might come in prior to the end of this assessment hearing. And just that final note that those objections must be submitted tonight before we close the hearing, and those objections should be sent to me at john.jarosch@maplewoodmn.gov. It's JON.JAROSCH@maplewoodmn.gov. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you. And just a reminder that if any objections come in, staff will provide a recommendation on those before you make your final motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I want to make sure that if we have any council questions before I open up the public hearing. Councilmember Junum, any questions about this project?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Smith?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett?
No, thank you.
Okay, hearing no questions from the council, then I will open up the public hearing concerning the objections for the Schaller Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 19-11. Mr. Sharon, can you please take over and call the numbers out so that we can hear from anyone who would like to present to the council tonight?
Yes, let's try this one more time. I'm going to call out the last four digits of your phone number, ask if you want to make a comment about this particular project. If you are not making a comment about this particular project, please just say no so we could keep the line moving. So I'm going to start out with the last four digits, 8389, and you would hit *6 to unmute. *8389. I believe you've opened your line and your line is now live. Did you want to make a comment on this?
No comment from 8389.
Thank you very much. Would the person whose last four digits are
I guess we are now.
7180?
No comments on this project.
Thank you. Would the last four digits of 4905? Okay, well, moving on. 6731.
No comment.
Thank you. Would the person whose digits end in 3934? 3934. *3934. *6 to unmute. I'm going to move on. *6731.
Nope. No comment.
Okay. Moving on to 2099. 2099.
No comment.
Thank you. 6731.
No comment. No comment.
Thank you. If I've already called this number, I apologize. 2979.
No comment.
Thank you. The person whose number ends in 0168.
No comment on the street assessment project.
Thank you. Ms. Mayor, I believe that is everyone on the line. Madam Mayor, I believe I've gone through all of the numbers. Everyone's phone on the line is open. If I missed you, now is your chance to comment on this particular project.
This is Steve Heeple at 2371 Dole Avenue. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
My phone number is 9301. I didn't hear it called. I have a question and a comment. I'm the one that turned in the request for deferral of the assessment due on undeveloped property. I purchased my house in 1992 and also purchased the vacant lot next door since then I just put grass and trees and flowers in there. And they were combined for tax purposes. Now, I understand there's an established policy for undeveloped property to defer the assessment for 15 years and then cancel it if the lot is still undeveloped after that time. But it still seems a little bit unfair for me to pay twice what everyone else is paying, since as owner of that vacant lot, I haven't received any benefit from the street being there. And the project basically just put me back to where I was 28 years ago when I bought it. So the policy is probably pretty well set in stone, and it wouldn't surprise me if the city council has no flexibility to make an exception, but I just wanted to make my opinion known. Regarding the question, at one of the meetings with residents that Mr. Jarosh held earlier, there was talk about putting street lights in on some of the streets, and that hasn't been done. I was wondering if that portion of the project was canceled. That's all the comments and questions I have.
Okay, thank you very much. I wrote those down, and I'm sure that Mr. Love and Mr. Jarosh have listened to those as well. Mr. Sharon, is there anyone else that you can identify that we need to hear from?
Mr. Sheeran, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Everyone on this line is open. If I haven't called your name, I apologize, but now is your chance to comment on this project.
If you would like to comment concerning this project, the shallow area pavement rehabilitation project, you'll need to push *6 in order for us to hear you. Okay, hearing no one else that would like to comment, then I am going to close the public hearing at this time. And we do have a question for staff, Mr. Jarish or Mr. Love, concerning the request. I didn't catch the gentleman's name, but the digits were 9301, the request for deferral for the undeveloped property. Would one of you like to please respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the property in question is large enough to be subdivided into 2 parcels. So it could have a second residential property built on it if it were subdivided. And as such, it was assessed for 2 units per our assessment policy. That resident did submit an undeveloped property deferral, and staff will grant that undeveloped property deferral upon the completion of the proper paperwork. But it is a property that is large enough to be subdivided, and as such, it was assessed accordingly.
Okay, thank you for that. And then also, in terms of speaking at a meeting, it was indicated that street lights were potentially part of this project. Mr. Jarosz, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Streetlights are something that we look at as part of all of our projects, ensuring that the lighting is in place up to our policy guidelines. When we presented the neighborhood with possible layout of streetlights within that neighborhood, there was significant resistance to the majority of those streetlights being installed. So we did scale that back to only installing them. There was only 2 locations, I believe, that still required them for traffic safety purposes. And we are still working with Excel on getting those installed. But the focus of this project was getting the pavement replaced. So we just proceeded with that. But we are still working with Excel Energy on getting the streetlights installed in 2 locations.
Okay, thank you for that. And so then I take it from what I heard you There was one objection, and that was concerning the property deferral, and your recommendation is to grant that deferral?
Mayor, that is correct. So it's not an objection, it's just a request for a deferral. And deferral requests are being performed on an administrative basis by staff upon the supplying of the necessary paperwork from the resident. So we'll be working with this resident to ensure he gets that paperwork filled out so we can get his assessment deferred.
Okay, thank you for that. Then, council members, do you have any questions or comments? Councilmember Juniman,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Smith,
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen,
No, thank you.
and Councilmember Neblett.
No, thank you. But Mayor, can we ask that people who are not speaking, if they can just mute their mics? We're getting so much feedback.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone who's on the our council Zoom meeting, if you could please mute your microphones, that would really be a help, so that then we won't get feedback. Okay, so hearing no other questions or comments, is there a motion, council member?
I move to approve the resolution adopting the assessment roll for the Schaller Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 1911.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett. The motion to approve the resolution adopting assessment roll for the Schaller Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 1911. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then moving to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to our third public hearing concerning County Road B and Arcade Street, City Project 19-22. Mr. Love, do you want to open this one up?
Sure, absolutely, Mayor and Council. So this is the last assessment hearing I think we have for the night. We're going to follow a very similar pattern as before. With this particular one, we did receive, I believe, about 10 objections prior to the council meeting. So after the public hearing, staff does have a couple slides to go through to kind of walk through the different objections and our recommendations on the ones we received prior to the public hearing. And again, any additional objections would have to be received in writing by the end of the public hearing. And John will provide his contact information again during his presentation. With that, I recommend turning it over to John for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jarosh, would you please go through your PowerPoint?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This assessment hearing is for the County Road B and Arcade Street improvements, City Project 19-22. The streets included on this project are shown on the map on the right, and they include County Road B from Edgerton Street to Arcade Street, as well as Arcade Street from Trunk Highway 61 up to the bridge at Trunk Highway 36. Sorry, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think it's important that everybody hears it again. The special assessments are one of the funding sources utilized to finance the public improvement projects, and property that are abutting the improvements are asked to pay an assessment for the direct benefit to their properties. Each year, the City Council sets the maximum rate for the assessments based on the type of project. And then during the project design phase, an independent appraisal firm is hired to determine what that direct benefit is that is received by the properties. And per Minnesota state statutes, we cannot assess higher than the direct benefit to the property. And that independent appraisal report is reflected in that final assessment roll. So the assessment hearing, like I said before, is typically held in the spring of the year with the award of contract. However, we delayed it this year until October due to COVID-19, and that reduced the amount of interest that accumulated on those assessments over the summer months, prior to certification to the county. Before the assessment hearing, the residents in the area were mailed an official assessment notice, which included the amount of their assessment, what options were available for paying their assessment, the right to defer their assessment, as well as the right to object. And as of right now, I have received 11 objections. I received one more via email here just a little bit ago. In total, there are 93 accessible parcels within the project area. The residential pavement rehabilitation rate was used for a small portion at the north end of Arcade Street, where there was existing concrete curb and gutter, sidewalk, and the utilities were in good shape. So we focused on pavement replacement up there, and as such, those residents or those properties were assessed at the pavement rehabilitation rate of $3,450 per unit. The majority of the project area received a full reconstruction, which included water main improvements and a full replacement of the street, and those were assessed at the $6,600 per unit. There are also a handful of commercial properties and churches on this project, and those rates were set based specifically on that special benefit appraisal. As with the other project, there are a number of payment options available. Property owners can pay in full or partial payment to the city interest-free up until November 15th, when the remaining amount will be certified to Ramsey County. Or property owners can have the full amount of their assessment certified to Ramsey County, and those amounts would be paid over a 15-year period for residential properties or an 8-year period for the commercial properties at a 3.5% interest rate. The same deferral options that were available on the other projects apply. Those deferral options would be for a 15-year period. However, they do include interest over that time frame, and they do come due at the end of that 15-year period. So for a property owner where the payment of the assessment would create a financial hardship, and one of these following conditions also applies: 65 years of age or older, they're retired due to disability, or they're a member of the armed forces called into active duty, those property owners could file for a financial hardship deferral. We also have what's called the undeveloped property deferral. If a resident has a property that is vacant, they can request this deferral, and it would also be for a 15-year period. It would include interest over that time frame. However, at the end of that 15-year period, if no improvements are made to the site, that assessment amount would be terminated. Overall, this project cost just over $5.2 million, with the special assessments representing approximately 14% of the total project funding at $726,000. This project is coming along well. The final concrete work was completed today with the concrete curb and gutter, and we're looking at installing the first layer of pavement on the remainder of the project early next week, with that final layer of pavement and the final restoration of the boulevards happening by the end of October. We're looking at early November, the final project cleanup and punch list items being completed. So this project is relatively on schedule, and we're looking at wrapping it up in early November. So staff is recommending that the City Council hold that assessment hearing tonight and take public input on the proposed assessments. And then following taking in that public input, the City Council should consider staff recommendations for actions on the written objections that we've taken in and any more we might receive prior to the close of the assessment hearing. And just that final reminder that those objections must be submitted in writing by the close of the hearing, and those objections should be sent to me at john.jarosh@maplewoodmn.gov. That's JON.JAROSCH@maplewoodmn.gov. With that, Mayor, I will turn it over to you. And just a reminder that with this one, after you take in that public input, staff does have recommendations to make on the objections received to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jarosh. Any questions by council members before I open up the public hearing? Councilmember Juniman.
Not a question, but a comment. Maybe we should remind people that this project actually was moved forward a little because of XL Energy moving that gas line. And so this project would have been down the road a couple of years, but instead our engineering department chose to combine them so there would only be disruption in the neighborhood one time. So that's why it happened now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
No comments.
Councilmember Knudsen.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
No comments.
Okay. Hearing no further questions from the council at this point, then I will open up the public hearing concerning the County Road B and Arcade Street Improvement City Project 19-22. Mr. Sheeran, do you want to call people based on the last digits of their phone number?
Yeah, let's go through this one more time. Sorry, but I appreciate your patience. 8389, last four digits. And you could hit *6.
No.
Okay.
No comment, 8389.
Okay, we're going to go 4905. 4905. You're open.
Sorry, 4905. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi, Charles Mick. I just forwarded to John a couple of emails. My apologies. I was directing those to Joe.Jarosh. I had copied Andrea Sint on those, but I believe I just forwarded them again and ask that you check email John, please. Hi, I'm not hearing a response. Are you still hearing me?
This is right. This is the public hearing. We'll respond afterwards, but I made a note that you sent an email with your objections.
Right.
Is there anything else?
A couple of emails.
Okay.
Sorry, a couple of emails. Yeah, Madam Mayor. And one was really just a question for a little bit of explanation from John. So thank you.
Okay, good. He can respond to that. He can check it right now. Okay, Mr. Sharon.
Okay, we're going to go with 6731. 6731.
Hi. Hi, this is Carol Grant at 6731.
Welcome to the public hearing.
Thank you. I expressed my point of view at our last hearing on this matter in brief, and my point of view was rejected, but I felt that the sidewalk and bike path were unnecessary. I did confirm they were requested by no one. I felt and feel it urbanizes a charming rural street and that there is no benefit to my parcel of land at 2134 Arcade and the tongue of property next to it. Especially asking for money during COVID-19 is very burdensome for people. Since then, I have received two assessments. One for my primary piece of land, and then there was a tongue of land that is on 2134 Arcade. It's called 0 Arcade Street, I guess. Didn't even have address as far as I knew, but I've got an assessment for my main piece of land and the little tongue of land that is adjacent to it in the front. What I've observed about the activity is, first of all, they've destroyed a natural stone wall on my 2134 Arcade and, I guess, 0 Arcade Street property. And there's a very unsightly concrete paver wall that's irregular, that doesn't transition correctly to what is left of my natural stone wall. Trees were uprooted. and left with huge chunks of roots all over. And now I've got 3 big giant bumps over my driveway that I have to drive over at 2134 Arcade. Meanwhile, on this little separate tongue of land I have, I've been assessed an additional 10% of its assessed value. So, you know, if I thought this was an improvement, you wouldn't be hearing anything from me. But I did not feel it was an improvement in the first instance because of the rural character and the easy access to biking and walking before these changes. And now there has actually been destruction on my little land that I'm being assessed twice for. I sympathize with the gentleman who had the same concern regarding the other project, where he said that his corner lot shouldn't, or somebody commented the corner lot shouldn't have to pay 2 assessments. That's how I feel, but any assessment, because I feel that this is a destruction to the market value of our land. So I do object to the assessment, and particularly, I know that one assessment will be deferred, but there shouldn't even be any assessment because it's just a tongue of land adjacent to my main property. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Mr. Sharon?
We are going to go with 2099, 2099. You can hit *6 to unmute.
No comment.
Thank you. We will go with 7180, 7180, and you can hit *6 to comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is 7180. We actually have 2 homeowners here.
Can you give me your
my name
names,
is,
please? Thank you.
Sure. Polly Nemec, Nemec, at 850 Burke Court. And
Marv Schmitz at 840 Burke Court.
Okay.
okay.
What are your comments, please?
Well, we're objecting to the assessment since Burke Court is actually a road that there's 5 homes on Burke Court. We each have our private driveways that feed onto the road. And much to our surprise, when we started looking at all of the assessment information, not only did each of the 5 homeowners on Burke Court get assessed $6,600, Burke Court itself, the road, got assessed $6,600. And then, of course, we assumed that everyone like us who had to have their homes on a road that feeds into either Arcade or Burke or County Road B would be assessed. But when we looked at the maps, all of the homes that are on Kenwood Court North and all of the extra roads in there, and all of the homes on Payne Avenue North and all of the accessory roads in there, not one of those homes have been assessed. And yet the only way they can get out of their developments is to enter onto County Road B, just like we have to enter onto Arcade Street. And yet none of our properties abut to either County Road B nor Arcade Street. So we look at this as a fairness. Either all of these properties need to be assessed just like we are, or none of us.
Okay, anything else?
You know, perhaps just Burke Court that feeds on to or to Arcade Street should be assessed. Because
Okay. I'm sorry you cut off. Holly, are you still speaking?
Hang on one second, Madam Mayor. I'm going to get her back on the line. Holly, you should be back on the line now. You cut out. I apologize.
okay, can you hear me again?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, we just said Burke Court is the only piece of land, if you call it land, that abuts to Arcade Street. And perhaps just that parcel should be assessed $6,600.
Any other comments you'd like to make for the public hearing?
Anything, Mark?
You know, it's frustrating. 840 Burke Court is considered a private street for us. We have to maintain it, snow, repair, everything. We got to maintain it, and yet we're taxed on a road that we have to take care of. Doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Sharon.
The next phone number is 0168. 0168.
No comment on the street assessment.
Okay. Moving to 2979. 2979. I'm unmuting you right now.
No comment.
Thank you. We're moving to 3279. 3279. You are now unmuted.
Hi, this is Tammy Rhodes at 2150 Edgerton.
Hey, Tammy, welcome.
Thank you. I just have some questions.
You just cut off,
Hang on
Tammy.
one second. She just cut out. I'm going to get her back on the line. Hang on a second, Tammy. Tammy, you should be there.
Hi, it's me again.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So anyway, back to my concerns is my address is on Edgerton Street. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. And I'm actually going through a financial hardship at the moment. I'm looking at the increase in property value, which has not happened due to the public walkway put directly on my property. And the destruction that it has created, the uprooting of trees and plants and bushes and shrubs and whatnot that have been there for 30 plus years. You know, I mentioned the privacy thing. Now that all this landscape has been removed, my home is now visible to everybody, the public that walks up and down this walkway that's very close to my home. My concerns are the amount of the assessment, being that my home is not on County Road B and addressed on Edgerton. Is there somebody that can explain how the cleanup and the privacy is going to be restored during the last 5 months of destruction?
Once we're done with it, once I close the public hearing, then I will go back to staff and they will answer all of the questions that come up during the public hearing. During the public hearing, we want you to make whatever comments you want to make. This is really your time. And then once the public hearing is closed, then staff will respond. I'm taking notes and staff are taking notes as well. And they will respond to all the questions.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Okay.
Thank
Anything
you.
else that you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so at this point.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
Yep,
Mr.
thank you very
Sharon.
much.
And the final number I have on the line is 3934. 3934. You should be good to go. If you have to hit *6. Last call for 3934. Please hit *6 if you want to make a comment about the arcade project. $39.34, either hit *6 to open your line or hit *9 to flag me if you're having trouble. Mayor, the person on my screen, it's indicated they haven't opened their phone yet. So I don't know if it's an issue of they can't unmute, they can't hit *6, or they don't have a comment. Again, the last 3 digits are 3934.
Okay. And at this point, they're still eligible to submit something in writing? You've been announcing that?
Yes, and just so folks on the phone, they don't have the advantage of seeing the television unless you're tuned in to channel 16. But if you do want to, you have to, for an objection, you have to do it in writing. You could email John, JON, Jarosch, JAROSCH, at maplewoodmn.gov. Madam Mayor, that is everyone on the line. So
Okay. I think you've made a valiant effort. I really appreciate everyone's patience in this. This is really challenging to do this by Zoom. We're doing the very best that we can. So thank you for your patience. And with that, I am going to close the public hearing. And Mr. Jarosch, before we get into all of the questions, you had some additional slides that you wanted to show.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I have recommendations to make on the 11 assessment objections that we have received to date. And I will run through those, and then I will be available for questions afterwards. So the first one that we received was 611 County Road B East. It's the Trinity Baptist Church property. That property owner is requesting a revision of their assessment, and they provided us a significant amount of documentation from a past interaction with the city. And staff will review that documentation and make a recommendation at the October 26, 2020 council meeting. For 0 Arcade Street, this is the property that Ms. Grant was referring to. It's directly adjacent to 2134 Arcade. She was requesting a cancellation or revision of that assessment or an undeveloped property deferral. That property is a developable property, and as such, we assessed it per our assessment policy. So staff is recommending denying that cancellation or revision of assessment. However, we are recommending to grant that undeveloped property deferral that would happen at the staff level. For 0 County Road B, this resident is requesting a cancellation of assessment. Staff is in agreement with this resident. That parcel is too small to develop. It got onto our assessment roll and it shouldn't have. It is only 10 feet wide and obviously cannot be developed. So staff is recommending removing that property from the roll. Staff is also recommending removing 0 Burke Court East. This is that private road property that Ms. Nemec and Mr. I believe it was Schmitz mentioned. We are recommending removing that property from the roll as we agree with them that the property that is essentially just covering a private road is not benefiting from these improvements. Then there is a handful of properties here on Burke Court East. This represents all of the properties that access off of that private road. This is 830 Burke Court East, 845 Burke Court East, 850, 855, and 860 Burke Court East. They were all requesting a cancellation of their assessment. However, those properties are benefiting from the improvements. They're accessing the street through their only means possible, that private drive. And these properties are being assessed per our policy, similar to other properties on past projects. It is very similar to a townhome a property where they have a private roadway that connects to our street that we're improving, the public roadway. However, there are a number of individual properties off of that street, that private road. So staff is recommending denying those individual requests for cancellation of assessment, as those properties are benefiting from the improvements and are assessed for our policy. And the appraisal report confirmed that as well. 1975 Arcade Street. This was an email that was sent to, I believe it went to you, Mayor. I know it went to some other city staff as well. We were unclear if it was an actual objection. It was discussing the methodology for assessing versus raising taxes to finance projects. We're treating it as an objection just to reserve that resident's rights, but staff is recommending denying that objection, as that property is benefiting from these public improvements. It's worth noting that parcel also requested, I believe, as an undeveloped property deferral, and staff would recommend granting that on the administrative level afterwards. So with that, staff is recommending approval of that attached resolution adopting the assessment roll for County Road B and Arcade Street improvements, City Project 1922, excluding those three properties I talked about. 0 Burke Court East, the private road. We would remove that from the roll. 0 County Road B East. That was that sliver of a property that is too small to develop. And 611 County Road B East, which will be referred to the October 26th City Council meeting. And with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jarosh. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I want to bring up a couple of the questions that came up during the public hearing. Can you please, you or Mr. Love, please respond to Ms. Grant's questions about installing sidewalk and bike paths? She lives on Arcade Street. Can you please respond to that in terms of city policy about sidewalks and bike paths?
Yeah, Mayor, I will start, and perhaps Mr. Love can chime in with some additional information. For this project, the sidewalk and the bike path, these were segments identified in the city's comprehensive plan and parks master plan as priority segments throughout the city. The bike path on County Road B is an extension of the previously installed network to the west along County Road B, to the west of Edgerton, goes down, I believe, past McMenemy Street. So this is filling in one of those missing segments of that multi-use path, as well as the sidewalk bringing it down Arcade Street, on-street biking opportunity there as well, and tying into the regional trail system around, I believe that's Keller Lake there, which will then connect into the multi-use trail on the east side of Highway 61 and continue down that trail that's on the south side of County Road B that comes all the way to City Hall. So these are continuations and filling in of portions of the network that have been identified in some of our master plans.
Mr. Love, thank you. Mr. Love, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So just kind of building off of what John said, we have heard that connections are a priority to our residents through a number of surveys, as well as the planning process. As John mentioned, this is a continuation of a larger vision that the comprehensive plan calls. These are segments that were listed as priority areas. And we do have a local school that's near here on Edgerton that has also spoken to us about the need to increase the walkability of this area. So certainly with our living street policy, on every project we evaluate pedestrian improvements as part of that policy. We look at both bicycle and pedestrian improvements and what might be needed in the area. And we followed that policy as well as we looked at this.
Thank you. Ms. Grant brought up some concerns concerning a destroyed stone wall and unsightly concrete pavers that don't transition properly. She also talked about trees that were uprooted and the fact that she's got 3 big bumps on her driveway right now. Can you please respond to those concerns about destruction at the site and leaving it? It sounds very unsightly.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Ms. Grant did email me these things over the weekend, and I will be working with her in the coming week here to address these items. She sent me some pictures, and all of these items were identified on that. She did have an existing natural stone wall. I'm going to have to look into whether that was in the right of way or not, but it was in the way of the construction of the new sidewalk. So as part of the construction of that sidewalk, the city removed that stone wall, and we did install a concrete block retaining wall in that location. And as part of that, there were some trees that were disturbed, and I indicated to Ms. Grant that we would address those, as well as taking a look at these bumps that she's referring to in her driveway. So there are some things that we need to follow up still on, and I'll do so starting tomorrow.
Okay, and would you please, I'm interested, would you please copy me on any emails? I want to see that these are, that we follow through on these. Okay, if you would do that, I would appreciate that. And also, thank you. And also, let's see, Tammy, living on Edgerton, talked about destruction of trees and shrubbery in the front of her property on Edgerton. Can you comment about that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So there's a number of things going on there. So in order to construct that 8-foot wide multi-use trail there was the disruption of a number of shrubs along there. And I can understand Ms. Rhodes' privacy concerns. I will be happy to meet with her, and we can work on some solutions there to provide some additional screening. I'll be happy to work with her this week. And then she also mentioned the fact that she lives on the corner and she's being assessed for this project. It should be noted that she has driveway access onto both Edgerton and to County Road B. So as part of this project, we assessed her for 1/2 of a residential unit. Seeing as that she has access to both streets, that's been our past practice for a corner lot like that with multiple access points. When County Road B is improved, we're assessing for the half unit. When Edgerton Street is improved in the future, well, Edgerton is a county road actually, but on a typical lot, we look at picking up that other half unit when that other street is improved.
Okay. That is very helpful. Those, there were also some email objections, several emails that 8389, I'm sorry, I did not catch the name there, mentioned. Can you tell us what were those email objections?
Yes, thank you very much. I missed that one when I was going through the other objections. So that is at 730 County Road B East. Mr. Mick objected to his assessment, feeling that they should have a lesser amount due to the hardships of going through the public improvement project. I'm not going to deny that construction is fun to go through. It is a noisy, dusty, annoying process, and we're all tired of it by this time of the year. However, that property is benefiting from the improvements, and it is being assessed per our policy. So my recommendation on that would be to deny that request for revision of assessment.
Okay, and so does that needs to be included in the slide that's up on your screen right now? Is a denial of that request?
I would assume that would have to just go into the meeting minutes.
Okay, got it. Okay, I think those were all of the questions that I wrote down that I think haven't been addressed so far. I'm going to turn it over to my fellow council members and have them weigh in as well. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would like them to address, because this has come up more than once tonight, not here necessarily, but in previous ones as well, why we charge interest on deferrals. Because I don't think people understand why it happens. So could they please address that, Jen? And then I have one other question.
Mr. Jerish, can you respond to that, please?
Mr. Love.
Mr. Love can respond to that.
When he can take.
Yes, so Mayor and Council, as you know, one of the funding sources is assessments. But when we have a deferral, that the city is carrying that cost of the project during the time period of the deferral. So we are charging the interest for that time period. And when the deferral comes due, we would be collecting that. And it's a way of the city recovering the cost of carrying that deferral. Again, with undeveloped property deferral, which I believe is the one that we're speaking about today, if it's not developed in the next 15 years, that deferral and any interest would go away.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman, you had another question?
Yes, thank you. Actually, there's two questions. The first one was the people on Burke Court, excuse me, who are going to pay individual assessments, as I understand it. We're asking about what about Kenwood Court and Laurie Court up there in Payne Avenue? I think I know the answer, but I'd rather have them answer it.
Mr. Love or Mr. Jerish, would you respond?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So these other streets that they refer to are all public roadways. So when those streets are improved or have been improved in the past, using Payne for an example, those properties along those streets pay an assessment when their street is improved. So the difference here is these folks on Burke Court living on a private road directly accessing the street that we're improving. Those other folks live on public roadways that include their own assessments when they're improved.
Thank you, Mr. Jerish. And then I have one more. Kind of referring to the couple of the properties that the mayor referred to. So I don't believe that this project is completed yet with all the restoration completed. So the individuals who expressed, I guess, a little bit of distrust or displeasure anyway with our walkways and so on, and about the restoration process. Could you address that as far as the completion of restoration?
Yes, Mayor, Council. Like I said in my presentation, one of the things left to do on a large portion of the project is the boulevard restoration. So right. It's one of the final things that happens as part of these projects. We wait until all the road work, the curb work, driveways, sidewalks, retaining walls, all that is complete. All that hardscape has to go in first. Once that's complete, the contractor will come in and install the topsoil in all the disturbed boulevard areas and restore that with either sod or seed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Knudsen.
I had the same questions as Councilmember Juniman, and so those are complete. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councilmember Juniman kind of addressed my questions too. However, I just want to reiterate that Mr. Jarosh is correct. Construction is noisy and messy and just kind of tears up things real quick and everything gets put back beautifully, or at least that's the hope. And I heard what Mr. Jarosh said about following up with these residents who have their properties disturbed. And I just really, 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 really want to encourage them to do that as soon as possible. because there's nothing like being in the middle of a construction zone and seeing your property destroyed, and then feeling like and hoping that it will be put back as well as it was before the construction, if not better. So whatever you can do to make that happen, please do. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to make a comment to the residents as well, that, you know, I've been in your neighborhood. I've walked those streets. I followed up with staff to find out, when is this going to be done? This has been an entire summer. And I realized that the project was a huge project that required, you know, XL and St. Paul Regional Water and the city and the county, everyone to work together. I'm glad. I mean, the one good point is that rather than having it dug up more than once, it was all done at one time. But I can tell you that our staff does a really nice job of following up. And I just want to close the loop on that and make sure that we get all of this buttoned down and it looks great by the time the snow flies. So that come spring, it's going to look brand new and it will be wonderful. That's really what the goal is. So our staff takes very good care and makes sure that that kind of thing gets taken care of. And so,
Mayor?
Yeah.
Mary,
Councilman Neblett.
No, it's Kathy Juneman, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Since
Sorry,
this is
Councilor
this is near my neighborhood and I've walked too. I think one thing that we have to let people know is we know how much disruption there was, and part of that has to do with the scope of the XL project. There was such massive digging for that it made an ordinary street project all the more messy, and there's no way they could get around it. And so I think that's why it seemed tedious to people. And when are we going to be done with this? And how's it going to look? I think it was because it was if you will, a twofer. And they started, and there was a lot of digging into front yards and so on. And that's why the disruption is, I think, so distasteful. But I think we're on the right track, as you said, Mayor. And normally our staff does a really good job of following up with the restoration. So we appreciate their patience and we understand the power of disruption. But it was really kind of unavoidable because XL is the one who brought this up.
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Council, this is Steve, if I may just add
Sure.
one thing. This is one of the things that when we were working with XL, we talked about. What we really wanted to avoid was with the final restoration that some of it was being done by our contractor and some of it was being done by XL's contractor, and then worries about potential one area being done better than another, which is why all the restoration is being done under the city's contractor. XL is paying for the restoration that would have been under theirs, but it's all being done under our contractor. So residents have one person to go to if they got questions or if there's something that they need help with.
Thank you for that. Okay, council members, then we have a recommended action.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the assessment roll for the County Road B and Arcade Street Improvement City Project 1922.
Second.
Mayor and Council.
Is that Mr. Love?
Yeah, I'm
With-
sorry. I just want to.
With exceptions.
Yeah, with the exceptions that we have.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. That's
Thank you for that clarification.
with the exclusions and exceptions as provided by staff.
Second.
Okay, so I think it was moved by Juneman and ultimately with that modification with the exceptions and such, and it was seconded by Councilmember Knudsen. So with that, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's vote. Councilmember Juneman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, staff, and thank you, residents. I know that this was tedious, and thank you, staff, in particular, for going through this, Mr. Sharon. and helping us through this. I know it's very challenging to do this on a Zoom meeting. So moving on, we still have some agenda items. We have the Wood Spring Suites coming back to us. Is this, the presenter tonight is Mr. Thompson? Good evening, Mr. Thompson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Great, thank you. So as you mentioned, Mayor, this is the development application for Wood Spring Suites that is coming back to the Council after your review a couple of meetings ago at the in September. So this site, sorry about that. So this site, just as a quick recollection, is on County Road D. It's actually the last remaining parcel in the Legacy Village development, which is a mixed-use walkable development that includes commercial, retail, as well as residential. And as part of that larger Legacy Village project, this site has always been guided and planned for retail and commercial uses. The development application submitted by the applicant requires 3 actions from the city. The first is a conditional use permit to amend the existing PUD, a design review, which is required for any new commercial building, and then lastly, a comprehensive sign plan for the signage on the site. As I mentioned, the council reviewed this on September 14th. You did table action on the development application and did request that the applicant review items related not only to the building design and the architecture of the building, but also some of the site design and parking elements that were originally included. Since that meeting, staff has been meeting with the developer and with the applicant, and as a result of those meetings and further discussions, they have submitted revised plans which are before the council tonight. And so we're bringing those plans forward for your review and approval this evening. First, I just want to talk about the proposed design changes. So on this screen, the top rendering is the plan, the original plan that you reviewed 2 meetings ago. So that's the old design. And then on the bottom of the screen is the updated renderings with the new architecture and design for this building. Highlight a couple of the changes that have been made. First, there's been a significant amount of additional brick added to the building. So if you remember, the last plan really just had the first floor elevation was brick, and the remainder of the building was a hardy panel installed like in a lap siding. And the CDRB had recommended the incorporation of additional brick. And so the applicant has fully done that as recommended by the CDRB. It's a little hard to see in the renderings, but where that brick is located is on the ends of the building where those stair towers are located. And then also on the entire, on the front of the building above the entrance. So where the entrance canopy is going all the way up to the 4th floor. All of those areas are now brick, and they've done a combination of white and beige brick on those new areas of brick, and then maintain that red brick along the 1st floor elevation. And then just some updates. Again, they are maintaining the hardy panel installed in a lap siding. That's still the material for the other parts of the building. They have changed some of the color composition and incorporating a lighter color to that material up on the entire 4th floor of the building. I think what the applicant has responded to is trying to recognize that this site is transitional. So on this slide, the top image is actually the existing townhomes that are directly west of the site on County Road D. And so as you can see, in terms of what's happening, you have this site for where the Wood Spring Suites is proposed is commercial to the north and east, but is residential townhomes to the south and west. And so I think this building design is really taking more of its cues and influences from the residential design. You'll see the maintaining the sloped roof, having the red brick base, and then having that lighter building material color on top starts to, from a design perspective, create that transition from the more intense commercial to the east and those residential buildings to the west and to the south. And then secondly, we did with the applicant review a number of options or alternatives to the site plan. Particularly the council had talked and expressed some concerns about the parking. So we looked at three options. One, increasing the parking stall width from the proposed 9 feet up to 9.5 feet. We looked at shifting the parking lot further south, so further away from County Road D. And then also we did continue to review whether the access locations could be relocated from the west side, Landro, and move those over to the east side on the Bittersweet. Ultimately, the applicant is continuing with the original site plan, which includes 126 spaces at the 9-foot width and at a 10-foot setback. And the reason for this, a couple things. If the parking stall width were to be increased, it's going to reduce the number of parking stalls by at least 10 stalls. So there would be 10 fewer stalls. And we think the project benefits from having the number of parking stalls that are proposed. First, because it meets our ordinance requirements. So if they were to reduce the stalls, they would then need flexibility from our ordinance minimum requirement. And second, it provides what we think is the demand of parking. So our ordinance, we think, predicts the parking demands pretty well, and that it requires 1 stall for each of the rooms in the hotel. And as proposed, they are meeting that with 126 spaces. We've also looked at just other hotels in the industry standard, but also peer cities in the area. And we can say that 9 feet is common. We actually weren't able to find any other peer city that requires a 9.5-foot stall. So we think it's functional. We think it'll work on the site as well as meet the parking demands we expect the hotel to have. And then lastly, on the shifting of the parking lot, we did look at that again, and it results in 2 things. If we shift it further to the south, it is both going to eliminate the sidewalk along Village Trail, the private street to the south. It would also eliminate the streetscaping. And so these images here, the image on the top is actually Village Trail directly west of the site. And then the image on the south is Village Trail today adjacent. On the right side of that image is where the vacant hotel site is. So the Legacy Village, master plan that the city approved always anticipated these private streets to have kind of an enhanced public realm with sidewalks on either side of the street, on-street parking, and then the streetscaping, which provides not only some beautification of the actual public realm, but also provides some of the screening and buffering and softening of the mix of uses here on this site. So with that, we continue to recommend the 10-foot setback on County Road D, because that allows us to achieve these larger objectives of having the sidewalk and the streetscaping elements on the south side of the site, which benefits those townhouses that are, as you can see on the lower image, directly south of the site. So with that, Mayor, we are recommending approval of both the resolution for the conditional use permit for the PUD amendment, as well as the resolution approving the design and the comprehensive sign plan. And all of those resolutions reflect the revised and updated plans that have been submitted by the applicant. So with that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. Before I open up for questions for you, is the developer on the line? Would they like to speak as well?
Mayor and Council, I do believe we have representatives from the developer on the call.
Okay. Before we go to questions I think we'll do questions for both of you at the same time. Can we get the developer on the line so that if they would like to make a comment as well? And then we'll open it up to council questions.
Madam Mayor, this is Joe. I'm in the process of opening up each of the lines for the folks that are on this call.
Thank you very much.
Several members of the team. And I ask that all of the folks on this project just unmute their phones by hitting *6.
Good evening. think we're having some technical difficulty.
Sounds like Dave Link is trying to speak.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Thompson, this is Dave Link speaking from Soda Partners. We do have members of the ownership group on the phone. We don't have any comments to add, but we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Link. Then what I will do is I will shift over and we will go through our council members. Mr. Link, if you want to put yourself on mute, then we won't have feedback. Councilmember Juniman. Well, let me just say that
Pete Moreau, can you hear me?
who is this? Who was that?
Somebody.
Mayor Pete Moreau. Pete Moreau, if you could re-identify yourself and check in.
You have to unmute yourself.
He's unmuted.
Okay, we can't hear you. What I'm going to do to keep the meeting moving is I'm going to ask for Councilmember Juniman. She'll be first, but I want to say thank you very much because I think that the proposal that you're making to our council tonight is far superior to the proposal that you made back in September. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think we really heard the explanation of why the access points have to remain on Flandreau rather than Bittersweet. And that's one of the things that some of the residents up in that area were concerned about. So I either I was napping and missed it, or we haven't had the whole explanation of why they must remain on Flandreau.
Good recall, Councilmember Juniman. Mr. Thompson, could you please talk about the access points?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So we did look at it, as I mentioned. It's difficult to maybe see, but in the lower right-hand image on your screen, this is the aerial photo. On County Road D today, there is a median. So I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so it's hard to see, but this is the median that extends all the way from the east through along all of County Road D until you get to Flandreau. So this access point on Bittersweet is a right in, right out only. And so if the accesses to the site are on Bittersweet, there would be significant traffic issues with cars that are accessing the site because of that restricted access. So cars coming westbound would need to make U-turns on County Road D, and similarly, cars that are coming out of the site trying to go westbound would need to take a right and then make a U-turn at the next intersection. So that's the limitation on why this access point doesn't work, is because of the restricted median in County Road D.
So would it be impossible to have one on Flandreau and one on Bittersweet, which, because if especially if they're leaving the site, the right out works and it goes to Wiper Avenue, which would ultimately get them to Wiper Avenue or 694.
Yes, Mayor.
Or that's complicated.
Yeah, sure. Mayor and Council, I think they were concerned about some of just the internal circulation that would come out of that and the confusion of which access points goes which direction. But I know that their engineer is on the call as well tonight, who could provide some more insight on that.
Okay, let's get the engineer on so that we can hear or respond to the question. And Councilmember Juniman, would you restate your question for the engineer while they are getting unmuted?
Okay, certainly. I was questioning the access points and why they both have to be on Flandreau. I understand that that's where there's a break in the median, but what about having one access point on Bittersweet? So people leaving the site, even though it would be a right only on County Road D, that is a main access to Wiper Avenue and ultimately to therefore 694.
Okay, now can we hear from the engineer, and would you please state your name?
Okay.
Mayor and council members, this is Mike Sable talking. I believe the engineer is from Sambatech. It's Pete Moreau. If you can hear me, please press *6 to unmute yourself. If that's not possible, would another member of the team unmute yourself and try to answer the question, please?
Mr. Lynx, are you still on the call?
Madam Mayor, yes. Madam Mayor, yes, I am still on the call. I'm going to try to give Mr. Moreau a phone call on his cell phone. He was scheduled to be on the call, and I don't know if he's having technical problems or not, but I'm going to try him on his cell phone right now to see if we can't get. He is the most qualified and best resource to answer the questions about traffic studies.
It looks like Pete Moreau is
Hi,
lined.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Mr. Moreau, could you please respond to the question about the access point? Technology is great when it works. So we're going to keep moving. Mr. Moreau or Mr. Lynx, I'm going to let you two work it out. We'll reserve that question and we'll come back to it. Gentlemen, do you have any other questions other than the access point?
I do, thank you. I think some of the neighborhood reaction was to the original plan or site, and maybe is not as negative now, but I only bring it up because I think what was part of it was, as we've run in before in other areas of the city when we do this, when you insert a 4-story building, people say, oh, that's going to be so tall. But when you put it next to the existing townhomes further west on County Road D, we can see that it actually does fit in quite well. But so that's to address the people who are wondering about that. You already have height on that street. And I also think it's, you know how when people move into an area and they hear what the plans may be for a vacant property, that's where it locks in. And originally people were envisioning some kind of a small strip mall, you know, coffee shop, dry cleaner, whatever. Well, how many years has it been and that hasn't come to be? So this is a project that fits the site as far as the kind of use. And I think when you see this side by, it certainly helped, excuse me, it helped me to put it in perspective. Because even driving by, you can't, when you think, well, 4-story hotel, but as you can see, when you look at these renderings now, it actually does fit in quite well height-wise. So I think that concern, to my mind anyway, is gone. I think it's more the use that people were thinking they were expecting, and it's not that. So that's just my opinion, but I heard from people before and I haven't heard from them since.
Okay.
But I do have a concern about the parking. I heard what Mr. Thompson had to say, and I heard about, you know, if we make them wider, there won't be enough and all that. As someone who spent a great deal of her life in a motel in 2009, 8 and 9 in Rochester, Minnesota, and when you're living in a hotel for any extended period of time, skinny parking spots are a curse because you have to load and unload your vehicle. It's just, and it's what some people refer to as door ding city. So I think that's why this is brought up. So I'm having a little hard time with the fact that we have to make them 9 feet wide. I don't know that there's any, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a way out of it, but it does bother me a little.
Thank you.
So that's my only other concern about the site itself.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Mr. Lynx or Mr. Moreau. Are you able to
This is
respond?
Mr. Johnson also is here, and I can address that.
Okay, would you please? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you, council members and Madam Mayor. On the parking, it is first of all, the number of spaces mentioned is 1-to-1 meets the ordinance, and also 1-to-1 is the brand standard for Woodspring Suites. In addition, we have a construction consultant that we use for developing Woodspring Suites. He has built approximately 30 hotels from Nevada to Virginia and in Texas and everywhere in between. And 25 of those or so are Woodspring Suites, and the rest are Home2s or Hamptons or similar properties. There's not one hotel that he's built in all those that had more than 9-foot spaces. It's the standard for the brand and in the hotel sector, which I believe Mr. Thompson referenced as well.
Okay, it just bothers me a little, that's all. Can Mr.
No,
Johnson,
I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
can he answer my question about the access points or not?
Do you have any response to the access point question?
I think
Mayor.
like Mr. Link, I'd like to defer to Mr. Moreau for that, the expert.
Okay. Mr. Moreau.
Yes, can you hear me now? All right,
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. I apologize. Yes, I was having a delay from my other phone line. This is Pete Moreau, engineer on the project. And to respond to the access question, it is a matter of grade and elevation as well. Bittersweet Lane at that location actually sits up about 5 feet higher than Flandor Street on the west side. So it's from a grading perspective, it really flows out to have the access be on the same side for establishing building elevation and sidewalk connections and everything.
Okay. I just, there were a couple of people who inquired about it last time, and I thought, well, maybe you could do both sides, but it appears not. So thank you for answering my question.
Of course.
Thank you
for your
very
patience.
much. Councilmember Smith, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Knudsen.
No, I appreciate, I was on the design review and planning, and I appreciate your response to everything. And I think another thing about the parking and the access points that that Councilmember Juniman talked about is if you put another entrance exit there, you're going to take away 3 to 4 parking spaces. So, I mean, that's a factor too. But otherwise, very nice job. Very appreciated.
Thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. I will agree with you, Mayor. This new rendering looks much better than the first one we saw. It's an extended stay hotel, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great addition to the neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you, council members. And I want to thank the owners or developers for including information about the leadership team that is going to be managing the facility. I think that certainly helped a lot in understanding kind of the efforts that you are, and commitment, I guess, to our community in terms of this particular project. So that was much appreciated as well. Council members, we have 2 recommended actions before us. The first one is the motion for a conditional use permit for a planned unit development amendment. And then the second one is a resolution for design review and comprehensive sign plan. Is there a motion? It's on page 143.
I move to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit for a planned unit development amendment, which approves a 4-story, 126-room hotel building to be constructed at 1744 County Road D East.
Moved by Neblett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Juniman, how do you vote?
I vote aye, and I do thank them for upgrading the design. It looks much better.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Congratulations on that motion, Wood Spring Suites. There's one more motion before us. The
I
motion
move to
Go ahead.
approve the resolution for design review and comprehensive sign plan for a 4-story, 160-room hotel building to be constructed at 1744 County Road D East.
moved by Juniman, is seconded by Neblett. The motion to approve a resolution for design review and comprehensive sign plan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Juniman, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen,
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Welcome Wood Spring Suites to the city of Maplewood. Moving on, we've got several more items on our agenda. Moving on to new business. The first item is the off-sale liquor license for Hy-Vee. Let's see, Andrea Sint, our city clerk, you are the presenter on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have a request for an approval for an off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits. The city received the application from Hy-Vee to open this off-sale intoxicating liquor establishment at 2515 White Bear Avenue, Suites A17 and A18. This store will be located on the north side of the Advanced Auto Parts store, and this is in conjunction with the Hy-Vee grocery store to be located at 2501 White Bear Avenue. Hy-Vee is working with the city's building and fire departments to meet all the necessary codes and requirements, and upon approvals from these areas as well as the state of Minnesota, they will the state of Minnesota does have to go and inspect this property also prior to us giving that liquor license to them. And city council approval is a required step towards that issuance. We did conduct a background investigation on Keith Harnick, the establishment's regional manager. Nothing was found that would prohibit the issuance of the license. And when the store manager is hired, a background check will also be performed on that employee as well. That does not need to come back to council. Chief Nadeau had a conversation with the applicant on the general expectations of their liquor license, as well as council and community concerns, and Chief Nadeau reported the conversation went well, and he has no reservations in regards to their license. So tonight, we are asking for a motion to approve the issuance of an off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits at 2515 White Bear Avenue North, Suite A17 and A18. And the applicant, Keith Harnick, is on the line for any comments or questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what I'll do is talk with Mr. Harnick first. If you could come on the line, and then I'll open up to questions from the council for both Ms. Sint and Mr. Harnick. Are you there with us, Mr. Harnick?
I am, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Welcome to our city council meeting. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, Madam Mayor, there's actually nothing else I'd like to add this evening, other than just to hopefully put the city council folks heart cities that we actually do implement technology in all of our register systems. Every single customer that comes into our store to purchase alcoholic beverages or tobacco, their IDs are actually scanned and it goes through a verification process. That is actually company policy, and it's Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits, one of our highest standards.
Thank you very much. Council members, are there any questions for either Ms. Sint or Mr. Harnick? Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, you might know. Mr. Harnick, could you tell me, at least generally speaking, what the record is of Hy-Vee liquor establishments in being successful in not selling to underage persons?
Councilman Ginneman, we have had a couple of instances here just within the last few years with particularly establishments in the Twin Cities, just simple fact of lapse in training. We do actually put all of our employees through checker training, which does include ID identification. And then we actually do process our employees through the alcoholic gambling enforcement training as well. You know, we can't bat 1,000, but we definitely strive for it.
Are there consequences for people who make the mistake?
It is an automatic termination for that employee, and then that employee is required to pay whatever fine is assessed by the city.
Thank you, because that tells me that you pass on the gravity of the situation and how important it is. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We take it very seriously.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. No question or comments, just really want to welcome Hy-Vee to Maplewood, and I'm very, very excited that this is moving forward and looking forward to voting for it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Neblett.
No questions, just yay, welcome.
And I don't have any questions either, but I certainly want to say you folks are certainly working hard over at the site. I'm very impressed with how quickly things are moving over there, and I'm excited about it as well. And I'm excited to take this vote. So is there a motion, council members, to approve the off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits?
Mayor, I move to approve the off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hy-Vee Incorporated, doing business as Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits, located at 2515 Whitebear Avenue North, suites A17 and A18.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Knudsen. The motion, you were racing for that. Folks.
I know.
We're very excited about Hy-Vee.
Very excited.
The motion to approve the off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hy-Vee Inc. doing business as Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then how do you vote? Councilmember Juniman.
Well, you know me and liquor licenses, but because I can't wait to shop at Hy-Vee in Maplewood.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Welcome once again to Maplewood. Pretty exciting for our community. So
lots of people are excited.
The word is out there.
Thank you very much for having us.
People are asking when things are going to be open. I get that question quite a bit when I'm out in the community. So very exciting.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight.
You bet. Can you give us any timelines? Any clues on that?
It'll be very soon. I can't give you any definitive dates. I don't think I would get to stay on the call for much longer if I gave out an opening date, but just know that it'll be much sooner than later.
Okay, that's good, because everyone is very excited about it.
Yes.
We're very excited to be a part of your community.
You'd be in the same boat as those kids selling booze to minors.
What? Yeah, I missed that.
But if he gives up the date, he'd be in the same boat as those kids selling booze to minors.
Oh, got it. Okay, I only heard part of that. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us on the call. We have a couple of more agenda items left. We have a resolution. We're already thinking about feasibility studies for road projects next year. Kind of perpetual road projects in Minnesota. Mr. Love, you're the presenter on this.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'll share my screen here real quick.
Hopefully you can all see that. We have a, oops, wrong one. There we go. We have 2 street projects for next year. Both are pavement reclamation projects next year. We're really concentrating on the condition of the asphalt. The first one is the Montana-Nebraska area pavement rehabilitation project, City Project 20-08. The map here shows the streets in black that we are looking at including with this project. The project generally lies south of Larpenteur Avenue, east of McKnight, and north of the railroad tracks to the south there. We have about 2.35 miles of street. The average pavement condition index, again, this is on a rating of 1 to 100, with 100 being a brand new road, is about a 41. So this project, again, is going to really concentrate on that condition of that pavement. These roads have existing concrete curb and gutter. The utilities, we believe, are in good shape underneath. As part of the feasibility study, this is really the first step that in the public improvement process for a proposed project. We'll be taking a look at doing soil borings of the roads, preliminary surveying, looking at appraisal analysis, providing information to residents, as well as now normally I would say neighborhood meetings, but we'll be working on what that looks like in a COVID-19 world. So we'll be reimagining what that might be like. With that, staff does recommend beginning the feasibility study by approving the resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study, Montana, Nebraska area pavement project rehabilitation, City Project 20-08, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Love. I don't have any questions. Councilmember Juniman, do you have any questions?
No questions, just a comment. I imagine the people over there will be overjoyed that they will no longer have to drive over patches that connect patches. Those streets are bad.
Yes, they are. Councilmember Smith, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen.
No questions.
Councilmember Neblett.
No questions. Thank you.
Then council members, without any questions, is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for the Montana, Nebraska area pavement rehabilitation project 20-08.
Second. Moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblett, the motion to approve the attached resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for Montana, Nebraska area pavement rehabilitation. Any further discussion, council members? Hearing none. Councilmember Juniman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. Mr. Love, we have one more project, the Southcrest Ferndale area pavement rehabilitation project. Do you want to present that to us, please?
Absolutely, Mayor and Council. So I have a map up here of the proposed project for the Southcrest Ferndale area project. Again, this is a pavement rehabilitation project. I should note that this project is in the south leg of Maplewood. As you know, we've been doing, I think, a project a year there for a number of years now in the south leg. This area here saw a lot of problems with the deterioration of the pavement section, which led to our franchise fees, which have led to these reclamation projects. So it's nice to be having made such good progress in that south leg there. The project itself, as you can see on this map, it's a little bit stretched out. It's Sterling Street south of Linwood, and then south of Schaller, we pick up 2 more roads, as well as the neighborhood that is south of Highwood and west of Marnie, or I'm sorry, east of Marnie there, and west of Farrell Street. The proposed project, again, these roads have existing concrete, curb and gutter. We believe the utilities are in good shape. So again, we're going to be looking at really fixing that pavement condition out there. by replacing the asphalt section. These roads total 3 miles, and on that same pavement condition index, again, 100 being a new road and 1 being at the worst condition possible, they come in at a 40. With that, staff does recommend approval of the resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for Southwest Ferndale area pavement rehabilitation, City Project 2009, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Councilmember Juniman, do you have any questions?
Isn't this one of the areas in South Maplewood that were the lucky recipients of that wonderful asphalt that we had some issues with a few years back?
Yes, Mayor and Council, again, I think our first project was the neighborhood just a little to the west there, Snowshoe and Lakewood. So we have been putting a pretty significant investment for a number of years now, addressing many of these neighborhoods in the South Leg, lying south of 94.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith,
No questions.
Councilmember Knudsen,
No questions.
Councilmember Neblett.
No questions.
I have no questions either. Councilmembers, is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for the Southcrest Ferndale area pavement rehabilitation City Project 20-09.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. The motion to ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for Southcrest Ferndale area pavement rehabilitation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Juniman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. And with that, council members, we have completed a very full agenda. And before we close, I wanted to give everyone an opportunity. Councilmember Juniman, would you like to make some final remarks?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, once again, I'm astounded at how much we can cover in this virtual way, if you will. And we're actually getting fairly decent at it, and public hearing can be accomplished, which is a good thing. And I keep thinking, when and how are we going to pull out of this? And I'm beginning to wonder, if at all, at some points, if you look at what's happening because of schools opening and so on. So we need to persist in being careful and watching out for each other. And I, again, thank staff for the incredible job they've been doing ever since March when we started down this road. I think we have been operating as normally as possible. So everyone deserves thanks. Be safe and be well, everyone.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. It's, as I'm coming up towards the end of the year and coming up towards the end of my term, it's sort of getting increasingly sentimental for me, each of these meetings. But it's been a crazy several months, and I do hope that we're able to get back together before the end of the year. But at the same time, I do think it's important that we be cautious. But a lot has changed in the last 5 years, and I've been thinking a lot about all the great work that we've done as a team over that time, and it's pretty exciting. So, anyways, it's just been thoughtful, but great to be on the team, and also want to send best wishes to my boy Zach, who's going to be testing for his black belt in karate this weekend. So that's very exciting.
Be careful.
Yeah.
That is very exciting.
Wait till he asks for the car keys.
I know, it's coming all too fast.
This is his preparation for being a teenager, is it? Okay.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Knudsen.
Yeah, I just want to reflect on the Parks and Rec task force that I'm on. You learn so much from our citizens about the incredible number of parks we have. And, we're looking for parks opportunities for everybody, every citizen. And then there's a whole recreation component. and we're talking to Oakdale and Little Canada, and everybody wants to cooperate during this difficult time. It's really enjoyable, even though, we're under stress, but it really brings out the best in people. And I was just impressed with the way folks are trying to cooperate and collaborate and figure out new ways.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just thinking how fast things are moving. I was looking out the window today and I saw the leaves just blowing off the trees, and they're so beautiful, and it's really fall, and the holidays are coming up, and the end of the year is almost here. But I would like to I try my best to be reminded to just not think so much about tomorrow, but just be present and enjoy today. And just the beauty that is around us. I mean, if you just go outside and look at our neighborhood, it is so beautiful. And we have so much to be proud of. And walking around our parks, it's just really amazing. This little city that we live in and the joy that we can find in it. So I just want to remind everybody to take a walk and just look around and enjoy Maplewood. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Neblett. I just want to remind our neighbors out there that we really, in Maplewood, we really have a heart for our neighbors and our neighborhood. And I just want to remind you to please look at the city's website. Check out the coat drive that we're conducting so that we can find new or used coats for people as winter is looming ahead of us. And also, I just want to remind you, if you or someone that you know is challenged with food, that there is the boxed program with fresh produce and dairy items and meat products at our community center, the Y, on October 15th, October 22nd, and October 29th. That we're going to have between 1,000 and 1,400 boxes of food to share in our community. So please get the word out. Let's take care of each other and be kind to one another. And with that, thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Sharon, for stepping in for Mr. Fold. You did a very good job. Thank you, everyone. This has been a long council meeting, but we got an awful lot of good work done. So thank you, staff. Thank you for all of our residents who joined us tonight. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, and good night. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Good night. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.